My previous review of Kokoro Connect Book 1, Kizu Random, received much more attention than I could have asked for. I would like to thank the big names that gave that post a signal boost, namely everyone's favorite light novel podcast host Justice, Kokoro Connect's publisher J Novel Club, and the translator Molly Verdelish Lee. The success of that post, as well as my newfound love for this series, inspired me to write reviews for the other novels whenever the time would arise that I finish one. And so, here we are. But it's pretty crazy to me that we're already on Book 2 a week or so later. I mean, my previous blog posts are months apart, and if you don't count video scripts, then it only gets longer. The reason why this happened is pretty simple. My offhand remarks about Inaba being cute and my wife were noticed by Verde, who promptly promised me that Book 2, Kizu Random, transcribed literally as Random Wounds, had lots of #Inaba #content. It just so happened that, around a week after reading the first book in the Kokoro Connect series, I found myself with some time and nothing to do. So I started the second book on the promise that there would be Inaba content, because who wouldn't, you know? So that's where this whole thing started. I said in the previous post that I read Kokoro Connect Book 1 in about the span of 28 hours. That is not the case for this one, but only because I read about 15 pages right after I finished the review of the first book. Really, I wasn't technically starting Book 2, but I may as well have been because I read the rest of the book, the other 200 pages, from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. or so. I actually chronicled my reading of the novel by live tweeting it. Please feel free to check out my live tweets if you are interested, but if you were following my live tweets during that time, you know exactly how I feel about this novel. I made some pretty bold claims, which I backpedaled on, but in the end I owned up to them because they ended up being what I really felt by the end of the book, and even after sitting on it for a while. Kokoro Connect Book 2, Kizu Random mostly centers on Inaba Himeko, who, as I said earlier, is a character I personally am biased towards, but I am positive that people will enjoy this novel regardless of whether or not they like Inaba like I do. Where the first novel used body swapping, Kizu Random opts for a more exciting idea that the book dubs liberation. In layman's terms, liberation is a character acting on a random thought of theirs regardless of all background stimuli. I stated in the previous review that I found body swapping to be more horrifying than the novel itself projected, and said body swapping led to a couple uncomfortable lines in the first half. With liberation, that is no longer the case. Not one thing in the novel made me uncomfortable beyond what the author was going for, and it made for an even more interesting dynamic in my personal opinion. These are all real thoughts of the characters, and that fact alone leads to some great character development and progression in the cast, especially for Taichi and Inaba. With characters exposing their true thoughts about each other and their actions, these characters are forced to cope with the idea that their closest friends may not view them as they say they do. In this, Kokoro Connect once again proves that the only way to heal is to face one's pain. Whereas Book 1 felt as though the first half was body swap shenanigans, and the second half a bunch of shorter stories that ultimately made up one bigger story about the problems humans face and how changing perspectives is beneficial to life, which ties in with the whole body swap, Book 2 is structured more as one single story where the focus shifts to the main point halfway through. The first half of Kizu Random, in hindsight, was setup. What is genuinely fantastic about it is that while reading, it does not feel like it is simply set up for something else. It was actually during the first half and middle of the novel that some of the most memorable moments of the novels were. Of course, that is to be expected when you tell a story using this concept of liberation as a catalyst. This novel's main idea is that bottling up and suppressing one's emotions is unhealthy and can lead to further depression. It is best to communicate and use your words. Holding back not only hurts you, but the others around you as well. It ties in nicely to the book's liberation gimmick, and through the liberation gimmick, Inaba is given a fantastic character arc where she not only learns to be honest and use her words, she also has her view on the world altered. In the previous book, Inaba was established to be afraid of being exposed as a bad person. In that chapter specifically, she was afraid of being exposed as inherently untrusting of others. In this novel, Inaba's fear is expanded upon. She believes that humans are meant to hurt each other, and she is afraid of being exposed as a faker for using her leader persona when she feels that it isn't really her. She is also dead afraid of anyone in the club finding out that she is in love with Taichi. The way that her character arc goes with these ideas is both scary but also amazing and empowering. Inaba ends up having to deal with these fears, and it changes her as a person, with a little help from a certain someone who does a certain badass thing. I absolutely love Inaba's character arc, and I am so upset that I cannot accurately portray how natural it feels and what crazy things happen. Even in the spoiler discussion, I still feel as though I can't accurately express her growth over the course of the novel. If Inaba wasn't my wife already, this book would have convinced me. Verde did not let me down, and Inaba is still the cinnamon roll in an Iron Maiden / sentient bra moment that we've all come to love. Seriously, she has some major Inaba moments in this volume. As Sadanatsu Onda's second novel, I really have to say that it doesn't feel like he wrote this right after the first. The quality is just that much higher. The man is an absolute madman. He sat down one day and went, "I'm going to write the best light novel," and the mad lad actually did it. His writing is just so honed this volume. In multiple instances, characters find each other in mirroring circumstances, and it's left subtle. When Inaba shuts herself away in fear of making a situation worse, Taichi's desire to help the situation also leads him to shut himself away so that he doesn't make a related situation worse. In another scene, Nagase confronts someone else's fears about identity, and all throughout the book, Onda recycled lines and phrases from related scenes to further amplify how far the situation and characters have changed. That's right, I don't know if it's called this in prose or if there's another name for it, so I'm using the musical term. Onda literally uses leitmotif in his prose. This is his second book. That being said, I need to mention that Kiriyama really gets the short end of the stick in this volume. Practically every character gets their time in the limelight this volume except for Kiriyama. The way that she shuts herself in her room is handled well, and so I can understand to an extent why she doesn't get time in the spotlight. She has not much screen time in general this volume, so it's pretty hard to give her any spotlight when Aoki hogs it all whenever she's in frame. But it is specifically Kiriyama that gets little spotlight, and it's not like this is the last we'll see of her. The next volume seems to be promising in that regard. I just feel as though, as crazy as this sounds, Kizu Random could work as a standalone novel without any other Kokoro Connect volumes and still be a fantastic book. Kiriyama's lack of screen time and spotlight means that you need her characterization from the previous novel to really understand who she is. Again, this is a series, so the issue is not as big as it would be otherwise. Despite that complaint, in comparison to Kokoro Connect Book 1, Book 2 is superior without a single shadow of a doubt. And I would go as far as to say that Kokoro Connect Book 2, Kizu Random, was the most fun I've had with a novel in years. I feel passionate about this specific story. I love Inaba even more now, and this book still makes me tear up. It's emotional, well written, and it blew me away after the first book. Kokoro Connect proves to consistently be one of the best written novel series, let alone light novel series, that I have ever had the pleasure of reading, and this installment proves that. I highly recommend Kokoro Connect, especially this second volume. Buy it at your everyday ebook storefront.